on Instagram and I posted on my story to see if you guys had any questions for me, and oh my god, you guys had a lot of questions, and so let's just get right into it. What do you think makes men fall deeply in love? Men fall in love through vasopressin, and so if you want a man to fall in love with you, you kind of have to stress him out just a little bit. Men don't fall in love based on all the things that you did for him. You cooked for him, you cleaned for him, you moved across the country for him. No, men fall in love with women based on all the things that they get to do for you. When they plan dates, when they can fix your problems, when they invest into you over time. It's not through sex, it's through vasopressin. And so if you want to learn more about that, just type in vasopressin bonding into TikTok, into Instagram, and you'll actually learn a lot about it. How do you know when to end a relationship? Just look at your partner with kind of disinterest, with disgust, kind of like, what did I ever see in you? I think that is a telltale sign that your relationship is over. I also think when you start fantasizing about the early days of your relationship and just wanting to go back to that summer 4 years ago in Greece where you met, you're in love with the memories instead of the person that's sitting right in front of you. Also, when you're growing apart, how to get over severe social anxiety when trying to meet a new man. I keep canceling because of it. I just think to myself that my future husband is going to be absolutely obsessed with me, because it kind of goes back to that Steve Jobs quote where he talks about if you want to be the absolute best in your field and do your best work, you have to be obsessed with what you're doing. And that goes for work and for your partners. And so the way I see it is, if a man isn't interested in me, then I'm not interested in him. And so why would I be so stressed out about what a man thinks about me when this man is not my boyfriend, this man is not my husband? Why would I stress over a person who's going to have such a small impact on my life overall? And if someone doesn't like me, and if a date doesn't go well, then great. Then I know that's not my person, and I'm one step closer to meeting my person. How does one stop oversharing all the time and not feeling guilty for hiding information? I want you to think of yourself as a book. If you are an open book to every person that you meet, then you're going to be treated like a library book. You're not going to be treated with the respect that you deserve. Getting to know you is a privilege. Getting to know your life story is an honor, right? And so I want you to treat your life kind of like a movie. When movies are going to be released, they release a movie trailer. You see a little bit here, you see a little bit there, and then based on your interest in the movie trailer, you can buy a ticket to go see the movie. What is the incentive of buying a ticket to go see a movie if you see the entire movie in the movie trailer? Leave the best information, the best of you, for the people who are the best for you. Because often when you overshare, you leave that conversation feeling exposed, and you shouldn't feel that way when you are talking to someone that you deeply care for. And oftentimes when we overshare, it's a way to soothe ourselves because we feel uncomfortable, and that can be fixed with emotional regulation. And I talk about this in the Emotional Mastery Workbook. You guys already know about this. I'll have this linked in the caption below if you want more information on just emotional regulation exercises that can help you combat this. But understand that you will stop oversharing when you have other ways to express yourself. For example, you can do journaling. If you really want to tell this person this piece of information about you, write it in your journal first and leave it for a day or two, and then see how you feel about it then. Because oftentimes you just need to get something off your chest. You don't actually need to say it out loud. And sometimes you might even feel relieved later on that you didn't share that information with them. How to not get emotionally attached too quickly. Number one is, don't get intimate too soon, especially if you consider yourself a lover girl, someone who falls for people quite quickly, someone who might struggle with an anxious attachment style. Sometimes when you get intimate too quickly, it can really blind you from making the best decisions for yourself. Number two is, stop listening to love songs in the car. Stop creating like a playlist for them where you're listening to these songs, thinking about them, thinking about all these different scenarios of what you guys could be like together. I want you to look at the facts of what is really happening instead of the potential future that you could have with a person, because you do not date a person's potential, you date their reality. And so ground yourself in the facts. You know, how many dates have you really been on with this person? 1, 2, 3? You know, it really takes time to get to know a person. When you take your time getting to know a person and you really allow yourself to feed into other areas of your life, not just the person that you're dating, it really allows you to slow down emotionally, because you have other things to tend to. You have your job, you have your fitness, you have your friends, and this person is just a very, very small part of your life. They're not your entire life. Your partner should never be your entire life. That's like putting all of your eggs in one basket. You wouldn't do that if your life depended on it, but we do that all the time when it comes to our emotional well-being, and that stops today. Thoughts on men who are dismissive and avoidant. At the core of every avoidant man is just a man who is in a very anxious relationship with themselves. They have trust issues, and so what they do is they leave before they are left. They hold back their feelings, they suppress them, they bury them deep down, and they never deal with them. And then later, it comes out in all of these horrific ways. That's why a person with a dismissive avoidant attachment often struggles with something called the phantom ex, or the one that got away. And so they could be in a very happy, healthy relationship with a person, but they're still fantasizing about an ex from their past because they weren't able to fully express themselves. They weren't fully able to put themselves out there. And now they live with that regret. And so my thoughts on people with an avoidant attachment style is unique because I used to be a fearful avoidant. And I will tell you this, there is nothing that you can do to heal a person's attachment style. Remember the relationship that I was in when I had a fearful avoidant attachment style? And nobody could have helped me. Not my partner, not anybody around me. It wasn't until I started to do the work for myself, it wasn't until I actually struggled from the loss of that relationship that it actually made me look inward and want to be a better version of myself. Because ultimately, you can't change anybody. People change for themselves. They change for their own selfish reasons. They change for the people that they truly want to be with. And so if you are noticing that a person is avoidantly attached, I just want you to see this person as a picture. And I want you to ask yourself, is this for me? And if it's not, then I need you to keep it moving. Because once a person paints you a picture of who they are, that's what it is. Are you dating or in a relationship? I will get into this a little bit later. How to deal with an avoidant person in a relationship when I am the anxious one. Being in a relationship with someone who is avoidant and not willing to work on themselves is very different than being in a relationship with someone who is avoidant, who knows that they have issues that they need to work on, and they're willing to work on them with you, communicate with you. So I want you to ask yourself which category you fall into. Because if you are dealing with someone who is mature, someone who wants to work on themselves, someone who wants to have a long-term relationship with you, you need to be able to set boundaries, because it's not about being liked by an avoidant that's important. It's about being respected. And avoidants need to be in a relationship with someone that they respect. They need someone with strong boundaries who is not going to put up with their nonsense, because that is going to keep them on their best behavior. This is coming from someone who used to be a fearful avoidant, who was in a relationship with someone who is very anxious, who could never say no to me. And it made me respect them less. Someone who forgave me for anything that I did, and I respected them less. And so people want to be held to a higher standard. People want to be with people who respect themselves. And so I want you to ask yourself, in what ways in my relationship am I compromising too much? Am I compromising my identity, where I'm people pleasing, bending over backwards? And I need you to start drawing a line in the sand where this is where they end and you begin, okay? You are a whole person by yourself. And so when you bring the wholeness of you to your relationship, it's actually going to allow the relationship to thrive, because you are two whole people coming together, building a connection, but you both have independent lives, okay? You don't have just the same friends. You have your set of friends, you have your set of interests, you have your career, your hobbies, your fitness, and all of those things keep you well-rounded. The best thing a woman can be is emotionally sovereign. Her emotional well-being is not dependent on her partner. She's focused on who she is, she knows where she's been, and she knows where she's going. Because let me tell you something, it's those kinds of women that are treated the absolute best. I feel stuck with someone I have no future with and someone who does not want me. You are never stuck. I need you to pay attention to the role you are playing in your own suffering. Oftentimes when you are in these situations, what you want more than anything is to be in a relationship with this person, but they need to change, 2 or 3 things. They need to be more emotionally available. They need to validate your emotional experience. They need to step up in some kind of way. You think that them being able to show up for you in all of these ways is going to fix all of your problems, and then it's going to be smooth sailing from then on out, and then you're going to live happily ever after. No, because the finish line always moves. And even if they do start behaving in the way that you want them to behave, you're going to become resentful, because what you're going to think is, why did it take you so long to finally treat me right? And that is very destructive to a relationship. And so the best thing that you can do is set the example by showing how much you love yourself by walking away. Walking away is the most magnetic thing that you can do, because it signals self-respect. And that is the most attractive quality. Have you ever had to patiently wait to uncover a cheater? It's such a painful process. Yes. And the thing is that there will always be signs. When I was being cheated on, it came slowly, and then all at once, all of these small realizations, these small lies and stories that I was being told, where now new information was being presented to me and it didn't fit into the previous story. I started getting nightmares. I started to get this compulsive urge to look through their phone, because in the pit of my stomach, I knew that there was something that they were hiding. I didn't know what it was. I was nervous about what it was. My body literally started to reject this person. I became so exhausted all of the time. I had no energy to be creative, and obviously, this is my job now. Like, I love being creative. I couldn't think of any new ideas because all I was constantly thinking about is, what is this person going to do next to break my heart? Or what are they up to? What are they doing? Who are they talking to? Who are they following on social media? And it was like this slow but steady process. Finally, when it all came together, obviously it was sad, it was devastating, but a part of me kind of felt relieved because I was like, okay, now it is so clear that this is not my person, because this is something my future husband would never do. And now I can move on in peace, knowing that I gave this relationship my absolute all, and I will forever be the one that got away and got her life together, and he will forever be the one I left behind. And so, yes, it's a difficult process, but you will make it through. Focus on your self-care, focus on getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, exercising, take care of yourself. How did you deal with letting go of someone you love, knowing that love was not enough? By thinking of what my life would look like if I had stayed with this person. The scariest thing to me used to be the thought of leaving this relationship, because I moved to a different continent to be with this person. I had taken a big step back in my career to support them in achieving their dreams, and I thought, oh my God, if I walk away from this, I'm literally walking away with nothing. I would have to move back in with my parents. I don't know what the future would look like for me, and it was very scary, but I knew that staying in that relationship wasn't going to change the ending, because there had already been so much disrespect, so much betrayal, and I knew that I could never trust this person the same. And without trust, you have nothing. You literally have nothing. And so I knew that I needed to love myself enough to walk away and give myself the life I knew I was capable of living. And it was only when I started doing that that I was going to be able to attract the right person, because I didn't love myself before. And so then inevitably, I attracted a person who would do these things to me. So I knew that was just something that I had to do if I was going to get to that next level, because I didn't want to get to a point where I died at 25 in this relationship and I wasn't going to be buried until 75. And I was going to continue to look happy to everybody else on social media because I was engaged, because I had a really nice ring, and deep down, I was actually miserable. I would rather be happy than look happy. You have to love yourself more. You have to love the future that you are going to create for yourself more than the life that you have now. And now the scariest thing to me is thinking what my life would have looked like if I had stayed in that relationship. Because I'll tell you something, there would probably be no Anxiously LA. And over 340,000 of you across my social platforms who are determined to level up and become the best version of yourself and never settle. That probably would have never happened. And so I want you to remember that if you are going to bet on something or someone, let it be yourself. Let it be on the future that you are going to create. When do you walk away from someone? You walk away from someone when they disrespect you, when they abuse you, when they put their hands on you. And most importantly, you walk away from a person when you communicate to them how their actions are affecting you negatively, and they try to convince you of all of the reasons why you shouldn't feel that way, why you are crazy, and how your expectations are too high. What they are saying is completely true. Your expectations are too high for them. And so I need you to place them where they belong, which is typically not in your life, which is typically at a distance. And it is when you walk away that you reclaim your power. It's in your willingness to walk away that you show that you are high value, that you have options, that you have self-respect. How to always be the dream girl in the relationship. A dream girl is always focused on where she is going. She knows who she is, she knows where she's been, and she knows where she's going. She has a very strong self-concept, okay? She has a strong identity. And so often women will come to me and they say, I completely lost myself. I don't even know who I am anymore. And so how you avoid being a doormat and you stay in that dream girl mentality is you always focus on yourself. Men fall in love and marry women who are self-focused, because it's those kinds of women that require a man to step into the best version of himself if he's going to be with her. And men like to be held to a high standard. And so continue to focus on yourself. Number one. Number two, date people who actually like you. Understand that your future husband, your future boyfriend, is going to be obsessed with you, okay? He's not going to be the person that has you writing paragraphs in your notes app. He's not going to be the person that has you crying yourself to sleep at night. He is going to be the person who is consistent, who is reliable, who is in your corner. When everything falls apart, you know he has your back. He's gonna be that guy. And those men move very differently than men who are just trying to use you or just want you for a good time. Because a man who wants you, who wants to be with you, who wants to be your partner, he will always give you clarity. And understand, men are all providers. People say, like, how do I get a provider man? All men are providers. Whether they provide peace or whether they provide problems is another thing. And so I want you to ask yourself, is this person that I'm dating providing me peace or problems? Because the only men that you should be entertaining are the men who make your life better, are the men who are actually bringing things to you, not men who are just trying to harvest your energy, because your feminine energy is so great. You will always be the dream girl when you stay on that pedestal that he has you on, because a man who's truly in love with a woman, he will slightly put her on a pedestal. And those are the relationships that last the test of time. The two kinds of relationship that last the test of time are when a man and a woman love each other equally, or when the man loves the woman just a little bit more. You know, she's slightly on a pedestal. You know, he doesn't know how he got her. And people say, you know what, that's unhealthy. But it's just true. Men want to be with a woman who's out of his league, because a woman like you literally raises his social status. You make him look better in every room that you walk into. And the essence of a dream girl is knowing that you're not trying to be like everybody else. Dream girls own their authenticity. It's not about being what a man wants. How did it go with Denver guy? I'm only going to touch on this just a little bit, but the initial Denver guy, the guy that I met in Sydney, who I hit it off with, you know, we had like a 6-hour date. Things went super well. And then when I was on my flight back to Canada, I had a layover in Denver, and I thought that I would extend kind of just to see how things would go, because he had just moved from the West Coast to Denver for a new job. And so I went to go and see him, and it made it very clear for me that this was not going to be, you know, a future partner for me, a future boyfriend, a husband. He just behaved in ways that my future husband would never, and so it made the decision quite easy for me to just kind of cut that off. However, I met somebody else while I was in Denver. The difference in how I was treated was night and day. The initial Denver guy that I was going to see, let's call him Robbie, he was not even close to the guy that I met in Denver spontaneously. Let's call this guy Sam. So when I met Sam, it was completely different. I think collectively, we probably spent like 30 hours together the entire time I was in Denver, and he took me everywhere. You know, he was opening the doors, he was paying for the dates, he took me bowling, he took me to all the places that I really wanted to see. Like, I really wanted to go to Krispy Kreme, I really wanted to go to In-N-Out, like anything that I was down for, like that's what we were doing. He cooked for me. We just had a great time together, and I know you guys are asking me this because I did have a collage that I posted on my story, and that's where I posted this question poll. And I had a very small picture of the photo booth that we went to, and obviously I blurred his face out because obviously I want to respect his privacy. But it just went incredibly well, and it just reinforced to me that I just need to continue to stick to my standards, because I'm starting to attract the right kind of person. The person who meets my standards, the man who is chivalrous, generous, and is kind, who is just that person that I ultimately want to be in a relationship with. It was very refreshing. It was lots of fun, and we're still talking now. I don't know if we're going to continue to talk, but I'm more so focused on my career, obviously growing Anxiously Ally, you know, giving you guys the best content that I can. And also I have other things on my plate. You know, I have the podcast as well now. I'm focusing on my fitness. I want to do another ultra this year, and so we'll see how things go. But I did want to give you guys just a little bit of that update, because it was definitely a splendid turn of events, and I'm glad I could share that with you. I am stuck in a loop of letting that person go and clinging onto her again. Please suggest. You only cling to people that aren't fully safe. The actual problem is that you might actually have high standards, you might actually have good boundaries, and you might actually be willing to cut people off. The problem for you is once you become emotionally invested with a person, it makes it so much harder for you to stand on business, for you to hold those boundaries, for you to walk away. And it's actually in your ability to do all of those things that they are going to be on their best behavior. Because let me tell you something, nobody respects a person who can never say no to them. In fact, that person is actually almost signing themselves up to be taken for granted. And so the best thing that you can do is learn how to regulate your emotions. So it doesn't matter how emotionally invested you get with a person, you are always going to do what you know not what you feel. And what you know is that you have to respect yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You have to set boundaries, and you need to always be willing to walk away if they are no longer respecting you and meeting your standards in the way you know you deserve. Is sexting and messaging other women cheating? I'm going to post this on an Instagram reel and on YouTube. And in the comments, I want you to define what you think cheating is. Because to me, the answer to this is quite clear. I always get cheated on, even if I give my best. How do I attract a masculine man? The answer is in the question. You are always going 110%. You should be meeting people where they are at. Because the thing is that if both of you are equally invested, and then all of a sudden the guy that you are seeing goes to 90%, 80%, 70%, you think that going into overdrive 110, 120, 130 is going to bring him back to 100. It's absolutely not. What it's actually going to communicate to him is, wow, I actually don't have to do anything in order for her to treat me super well. And so what you actually want to do is you always want to make sure that you are your top priority, that you are always taking care of yourself, your fitness, your health, your career, because it is in developing that wholeness as a person that you start to scare men like this away, because you are no longer operating in an anxious attachment style. You are secure. And when you are secure, that is when you are going to start attracting the right people to you. And so if you actually want to start attracting masculine men, you need to be willing to take a step back, because the vast majority of my audience, you are driven, you are ambitious, you are that go-getter type woman. And so oftentimes when you do that in your relationships and you show that you can do everything, you can pay the bill, you can open your own door, you end up doing everything, and then you resent your partner and you ask, oh my God, why is he not buying me flowers? Why isn't he opening the door? Why isn't he paying the bill? It's because you don't know how to lean back into your feminine energy and trust for him to take the lead. You can't deal with that anxiety of just sitting there, and that can be fixed with emotional regulation. And like I mentioned before, the Emotional Mastery Workbook helps you with this. Link is in the description. And so I want you to ask yourself, how am I overextending in my romantic relationships? And then what can I do to take a step back? What can I do to draw the line and lean back into my feminine energy? Should we chase our first love as a girl? No, never chase a man. Never chase a man. What can I do to help myself as an emotionally dependent person in a relationship? You need to be able to regulate your emotions, and you need to be able to find other sources of emotional fulfillment outside of your relationship. Because if you are in a relationship and you are emotionally dependent on another person, not only are you compromising yourself, but it is exhausting. It is exhausting constantly having to cater to the moods of your partner. And it doesn't mean that you can't rely on your partner from time to time. It just means that your primary source of emotional regulation, your primary source of emotional fulfillment should be within you. It should be in chasing your goals, your dreams, your desires, self-actualizing, becoming the best version of yourself so that you can come together as two whole people. And you will notice that will shift the dynamic of your relationship, and your partner will actually want to do more for you. I want you to have this mantra ingrained in your self-conscious. The more you do for yourself, the more others want to do for you. People want to feel wanted, not needed. And so when you are able to approach dating in your relationships from that level of detachment, that is when you're going to start getting everything you could ever possibly want. How to detach from all people and still be happy? The answer is in the question. You will be happy when you detach yourself from everything around you. The key to detachment is not about being heartless. It's about being connected to everything, but attached to nothing. Attachment makes you powerless. Attachment makes you vulnerable. Attachment makes you the worst version of yourself, because you are so focused on the end result, the outcome of a relationship, of a situationship, of a job. And that is exhausting. When you are able to focus on yourself and focus on the things you can control, what you eat, what you drink, what you do, what you think about, you are going to become way more at peace. You're going to be less stressed. You're going to sleep better. You're going to perform better at your job, in your relationships, because you realize that your life is about you. It's not about other people. It's about becoming everything that you're supposed to be. What helped you figure out your North Star in life? I would say rock bottom. Rock bottom was truly one of the most transformative and beautiful experiences of my life. At the end of 2023, when I was starting all over, I didn't know what my life was going to look like. All I knew is that I was passionate about content creation, self-development, psychology, and I wanted to help other women who had been in a similar situation to me. Someone who had fully invested themselves in a relationship and lost themselves and didn't know where to go. Someone who wanted to take back their power. Someone who wanted to step into the best version of themselves. I started doing that in small ways, and then it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was in taking these small steps and making small goals and keeping my daily promises that I was able to truly reinvent my life. It was kind of like that Steve Jobs quote where he said, you can only connect the dots looking backward. And then when I think about, the last 5 years of my life, when I think about when I was a teacher, when I think about when I was working in tech, in the self-development industry, when I was working in the YouTube world, and I think about all of the individual aspects of those chapters of my life that I was the most happy about, and then I brought that into my present and I asked myself, okay, what can I do with this? That was when I allowed myself to experiment, when I allowed myself to push myself towards new goals. And so last year I did 2 half marathons and then I did an 80-kilometer ultra marathon. And it was in pursuing those goals that I started to kind of refine what that North Star was. I don't know what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now, but what I do know is that if I continue down this path, the things that I'm passionate about, the things that light me up, helping people, serving people, providing value, I know I'm going to be happy with where I end up. And all of that goes back to staying true to myself and owning my authenticity. Because I don't care who you are or where you come from, people can feel your authenticity. And the reason why I've been able to grow my social media platforms to the point where it's at now is because I realized that I needed to show who I truly am if I am going to attract my people. The people that love my quirky self, the people that love my ruthlessness and my jokes, the people who love me for who I am. And there are people who have literally been on this journey with me since I started in January of last year, who now I truly consider to be some of my closest friends, who I feel like know me super deeply. And I think that's so beautiful. How to stop getting triggered by the people who hurt us? By remembering that power follows the blame finger. Whoever you blame, that is who you're giving your power to. And I would hate the thought of giving my power away to someone who has never treated me correctly, someone who has always treated me poorly, someone who has always done me wrong. When you are able to look inward and remember that you are the most powerful person in your life and you ultimately get to decide what comes next, that is when your life will unfold in the way that you want. And that begins with emotional regulation. When you are able to control your own emotions and your reactions to situations, that is when you're going to stop self-sabotaging. That is when you're going to stop giving people your time who literally have no business being in your life. That is going to be the end of your victim's mentality and the beginning of your hero's journey. And I promise you, you're going to be happy with where you end up. I think that is where I'm going to leave this Q&A at because there's still so many questions that I could answer. And I've been filming for an hour now. And I'm going to try and edit this down as much as possible. And maybe I'll do a part 2 and then we can go from there. But let me know how you like this video. Obviously, if you want to see more videos like this, comment below. Let me know what you want to see. Do you want more Q&As or do you want me to go in depth on certain subjects? And I'll see you in the next one.